Okay, Kyle, it's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us during this analytical week. So basically, uh, I would like to talk a little bit with you regarding SPSS and what has been the major achievements coming from this magnificent, significant product. So, being in the market for more than 15 years, it's an outstanding achievement for a software product. Given that IBM SPSS statistics has accomplished this, under your perspective, Kyle, which are the main key factors that have contributed to this?
Um, so I think there's a couple. And first off, Juan Carlos, good to see you again, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with everyone today. Um, but I think there's some main factors to it. One, I mean, SPSS statistics has served a need in the market. I mean, it would not have survived for this long, and frankly, thrived and continued to grow for 50 years if it didn't serve a market need. And it serves a market need, I think, if you're in education, if you're in government, if you're in private industry. So I think that that's really kind of first and foremost is that it's really filling a market need. If you look at as well, kind of, the customer base, it has a very loyal customer base too. So again, for those customers, it serves a need for them. And you have some customers who have been using the product literally for decades. So in a sense, they've kind of used it and it's become essential to them throughout their entire careers. And then if you look at internally as well, there's a very smart, loyal group that works on the product. From the development team to the design team, the product management team, they care deeply about this product, and they have for a long time. Many of them have been involved for a very long time with the product, and they take it very seriously. It's been their life's work, and they also take kind of training the next generation seriously. So
Right.
it's been in very, very good hands for that entire 50 years. I mean, from the people who founded SPSS over 50 years ago to longtime employees to not so distant employees to the current group who works on it. It's been in very good hands the entire time. So I think it's really, there's, lots of reasons as in terms of why it's been so successful.
Wonderful. Really, really. It's something that, as you mentioned, requires the commitment from different perspectives, the product team, the market needs, the users, the experienced users, and the knowledge transfer that we'll be watching over the time from one user to another.
Yep.
Keeping this in mind, Kyle, which do you think is the major strength of IBM SPSS statistics?
Um, I think it's been very accessible to lots of people. So you don't have to be a statistician to use it. You don't even have to know, a whole lot about analytics in general to use it. I mean, it's got, kind of a paradigm that I think the average user can understand relatively well, and that it starts off with the data. People want to see their data. They understand things like spreadsheets, and it's got that kind of almost spreadsheet metaphor, although it's not a spreadsheet, but you've got the
Right.
data editor so you can see it. So you kind of know what's going on in the data, and then you're able to click and point to get the types of things that that you need to get value out of the data. So you can get value out of the data with relatively few clicks. Um, and you can also do things like, if you do like to code, there's a command syntax language as well. So, it really applies to a very, wide, um, range of users. And I think that that's really one of the strengths of it is that it can be as an entry level product all the way through to the advanced user. And I think that that's really, kind of, the strength of it is, the ease and the breadth of the offering.
Perfect. Absolutely clear, Kyle. Thank you for that. And now, given current technology trends about the cloud, AI, digital transformation, why a company should consider IBM SPSS statistics under these circumstances?
So, I mean, if you look at the amount of data that's out there, I mean, data is being collected at a breakneck pace. I mean, we're collecting data on everything. The data becomes valuable once we get insights out of it. A tool such as SPSS statistics allows you to get value out of that data, which is important. Or else, you're collecting data, you're storing data, but you're not getting the value out of it. Something like SPSS statistics lets you get value out of it, and lets you get value out of it relatively easily too. Like I said, you don't need to be a trained statistician. You don't have to know how to code. If you do, that's fine. You can use the product as well. But to get the insights out of your data so you can make better decisions. I mean, that's really one of the whole purposes of having this data, and that's the value to it, or the insights we can get out of it so that we can make better decisions. And that's why something like SPSS statistics becomes so important in this age where we have so much data that, in a sense, we're almost drowning in data because there's so much data out there. We need to start getting more insights out of that data.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely. We need to get the best on data, no matter which elements you
Yeah.
have under your control. Now, we have heard about the slogan, real stats, real simple, real results. Any interesting experience that you would like to share with us, Kyle?
Um, a couple things. I guess so. When I would tell people, you're making small talk with people, and people ask, "Oh, where do you work? And what do you do?" And I would tell people, again, this is back when I used to work directly on the SPSS product line, but I would tell them, "Oh, yeah, I work on SPSS," and I can't tell you how many times people would say, "Hey, SPSS, I used you in college."
Yeah.
And then their second thing would be like, "Oh, and I love SPSS." And I heard that, kind of constantly, in terms of, how much people use it and how much they actually like and enjoy the product. And I would see it in places where I completely wouldn't expect it. I mean, once, many years ago, I remember we were looking, for a house at the time, and I remember walking through the house, and I saw some SPSS statistics books up on the shelf, of
Mm.
the of the prospective house that we were going to buy. And I remember, I was kind of kidding with my wife, like, "Oh, this is a good sign, they're SPSS users." um, so, to see that it's out there and kind of the impact that it's made on people, um, is really gratifying. And then the second piece, and it kind of relates back to your kind of, when we talk about, real stats, real easy, real results. Um, SPSS was one of the first analytics programs to create a graphic user interface. And in fact, SPSS statistics was so successful with that, back in my time, when I was in charge of the product management team for SPSS statistics, I would have, kind of longtime users come up to me, and they would say, "Yeah, I like the new user interface, but I really wish you guys still had the command syntax language." And I would kind of look at them strange, and I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? We've always had the command syntax language, but we were so successful at building out the graphic user interface and people using it, people had just assumed we got rid of our command syntax language, and that was never the case, obviously. In fact, all of the graphic user interface you know continues to produce syntax. um, but those are just two kind of um, I guess somewhat interesting stories. And like I said, the big thing is just how many people and how many organizations SPSS statistics has touched is to me is very gratifying.
Wonderful. That's wonderful, Kyle. Thank you very much. Now, how do you visualize IBM SPSS statistics future or product roadmap?
Now, I mean, I can't give a lot of specifics, obviously, on the future, because futures always change. So you have to, whenever you talk about futures, kind of um, take things with the caveats that are involved in that. But the product will continue to evolve. It will continue to grow. It will continue to look at new types of users as it evolves as well. So when we talked about, again, the product being over 50 years old, one of the reasons it's continued to thrive that for that long is because it has continued to evolve. As I mentioned earlier, it was the first analytics product to create a graphic user's interface. It was one of the first to integrate with open source. So, back in version 14, we integrated with Python. It was the first commercial software program to integrate with R back in version 16. So it continues to evolve and continue to grow. Yeah, will there be more algorithms? Absolutely. Will there be more graphics types? Of course there will be. Will there be new types of user experiences for different types of users? Something like that is a definite possibility as well. The product team continues to remain very customer focused and market focused in terms of looking for changes and in technology, in the market, in the user base, and they'll continue to adapt the product accordingly. So we used to have a saying sometimes where it's like, when people would say, oh yeah, I remember using SPSS back when, and I would kind of comment then, well, if you haven't used it in a while, you'd be surprised because it's continued to evolve over the years. The things that you used to do before, you can continue doing those. But again, the product will continue to evolve, to take it into new directions as well.
Wonderful, Kyle. And also, uh, taking something that you mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of the spreadsheets. IBM Species Statistics is a powerful yet friendly tool. Do you see it substituting other tools such as spreadsheets? Because it's common when we find customers talking about spreadsheet statistics.
Yeah, realistically, no. I mean, um, and you have to kind of think, look, various products have their role and they're good for certain things. That doesn't mean they're good for everything. Spreadsheets are one of them. Spreadsheets are very useful for some things. Are they useful for analyzing data? They're okay at it. They're not great at it. If you need to do something in a repeatable fashion, is Excel good for that? Not really. And don't get me wrong, I've, done things in Excel and, like everybody else does. But again, is it great if you need to do a bunch of repeatable things? Not really. And even if you're doing things like, you're creating formulas and that kind of stuff. I mean, I forget, the various studies that show, okay, well, how many spreadsheets have errors in formulas that are out there. Well, I mean, the number is really, really high. Um, but to kind of get back to your earlier point, will they replace spreadsheets? Probably not. But what they will do is supplement what you have in spreadsheets. And that's really kind of always been the philosophy behind the SPSS statistics product line. Just like, look, is it going to replace a database? No, it's not. It's not a database. It's not going to. Is it
Mm-hmm.
going to replace something like a business, intelligence tool? Again, probably not. But you need to think of where does it fit kind of in the analytic journey of a customer. So once the customer has their data, something like SPSS statistics then can be used to manipulate the data, get it ready for analysis, understand the data, build predictive models, those types of things. Those results often go elsewhere, though. And I mean, one of the things, in kind of my early days when I was involved with SPSS, I kind of thought, well, again, we would be like, the tool that everybody would be in all of the time, and they wouldn't need to use other tools and that kind of stuff. That's completely unrealistic. Um, and so, one of the things that, we had started doing, it had already started, but we continued it, and it continues to this day as well, is, well, how does SPSS statistics fit in with other products, such as MS Office, other analytics packages, BI tools, because you have to kind of think again, what's kind of the life cycle of the data? It starts somewhere, probably not in SPSS statistics. I mean, it may start in an operational system, it may start in a spreadsheet. Um,
I
it comes to an analytics package, such as SPSS statistics, and then it probably goes somewhere else. I mean, a lot of times it goes to Word, it goes sometimes back to a spreadsheet, or it goes to PowerPoint. So you need to have easy ways to get data and results in and out of something like SPSS statistics. Which is also why, again, SPSS statistics, like I said, for MS Office, you can get stuff in and out of it. Other analytics packages, even our competitors like SAS and Stata, we bring in,
yeah,
those files, we export them out. Databases, BI tools, um, because that's the way organizations work, and you need to use the right tool for the right product. I mean, if you try and take, something like a spreadsheet and get it to do things that frankly it's not really designed to do or its strength to do, there's going to be pain involved in something like that. And so, like I said, you need to think about where something like SPSS statistics fits in that process, and use it at the right time. I mean, when I talk to customers, one of the things I kind of always ask for them is like, okay, take me through what the life cycle of the data is. Where does it start? What happens to it? And where does it end? Where's it
yeah,
going to end up? And then I can tell you again, where does SPSS fit in that? And then how can we make it better to fit into that kind of that ecosystem of how your data flows. So my very long-winded answer, to tell you, no, I don't think it's going to replace something like, like a spreadsheet. I think it will supplement the other tools that you have, and you need to use the right tool kind of at the right time.
absolutely. It's a supplement, and as you mentioned, right tool for the right time
Yep.
for the right problem. I mean,
Yeah.
perfect. Now, several jobs have been turned into analytical strategies. How do you think the use of advanced statistics and SPSS will impact the jobs that are not traditional statistics oriented?
I think it's going to happen more and more. Now, look, I've been in the analytics space for a long, long time. Um, so, back in the days when SPSS was a standalone company, and look, one of our mission statements was, the use of data to drive decision making. And we kind of said that over and over and over. And the market was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of nice. You hear it nowadays, and you hear like big companies kind of saying that now, like how, look, we need to use data in order to, to make our decisions. And I think the use of data, the use of analytics, it's become part of mainstream business. At least, the concepts of it has. I don't think necessarily that the entire kind of employee base and in a sense kind of the customer base of that has totally caught up with that yet. I think you still have a relative shortage of people who are kind of analytically sophisticated out there. But again, we're collecting more and more data on everything. We're instrumenting things. We're asking people questions. We were putting new operational systems. So the amount of data that's out there kind of continues to grow. I think we need to continue to unlock the value out of that data because we're spending fortunes on generating and collecting that data. We're going to not only want to know what's happening in that data, but then to start to predict, okay, well, what's going to happen next? And as we start to collect more and more data, I think, kind of the advanced analytics part of it becomes more and more important because you want to then predict, okay, well, what should I be doing next? What's my next best action? If I'm in a commercial setting, what's the next thing I should be offering that person? And we're going to need to kind of automate that, I think, more and more because the amount of data that's going to be out there, and it's it, it, it's going to become to a point where it's not feasible for people to be doing all of that stuff all of the time, kind of thing. And so I think products are going to need to kind of build more automation, more smarts into the tools themselves so that we as human beings can keep up with the amount of data that's out there. And I think we're going to see data and analytics driving a lot of the decisions that are out there, with people having oversight to it, and various kinds of oversight systems, and those types of constraints on them. But I think we're going to start seeing that more and more, and I think it's going to become, frankly, just kind of a common part, probably, of business out there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Kyle, last but not the least important, data, AI, analytics are terms that have become extremely popular these days. Could you please give us some advice for people who are interested on analytical oriented career paths, or any skills they should have or tools that they should be aware of?
Sure. So I'm going to give you a couple different kind of answers here. And, I talk a lot with, people who are, they may be starting out in an analytics career. They may be in university and, kind of want to talk to somebody who's in the field and try and get some career advice and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give a couple different answers here. One, from an analytics and technical point of view, I mean, obviously you need to be, adept in the latest technologies that are out there. Again, obviously, knowing something like SPSS statistics, good job skill to have out there, because you can go out there, you learn it in college, you can go into the commercial world, kind of take that with you. Open source is also out there. So again, how does open source then integrate with something like SPSS statistics? Again, a good thing, a good thing to know. Related then to kind of analytics, and has starts to kind of bridge into the business world as well. For that, I'm going to kind of give you some different, people some different advice out there. And one of the things I always tell to people who are in the analytics field is work on your communication skills. And when I say communication skills, I mean all forms of communication. I mean written, I mean oral, I mean presentation skills, because you're taking, the findings that you have and you need to present them to other people who are probably not as analytically sophisticated as you are. And so it's up to you then to translate what's going on and what's the impact on the rest of the organization. And you also need to do things like advocate for your findings. You need to make recommendations of what people need to do with this information that they have now. And again, what's your expert opinion now on what they should do? Um, so the other piece that I would have that's again somewhat related to that is understand your business as well. Whether you're in you could be in an academic setting, but you still have a quote business. Whether you're in the front office, whether you're teaching, whatever, you have. I'm going to call them business problems, but they're organizational problems that you're using the data to solve. If you're in the commercial world, yeah, you have business problems in the sense of, you don't want customers to churn. You want to know what to sell them next, those types of things. So you need to, understand the business, because you're then kind of, the translator between the data and the business. And the data, your analysis and their results, the value they have then to the business is if you do something with it. Just having great findings and not doing anything with it, there's really no value to the business on that. In a sense, it's just kind of an academic exercise then. Oh, I've got these great findings, but I'm not doing anything with it. Okay, that's great. That's not making the business better. So you really need to then, in a sense, kind of, what do those numbers mean to the business? And you need to translate that to the rest of the business. What does this mean? And again, what are your recommendations? So, you need to become not necessarily an expert in the business, but you need to become fluent in what the business is trying to solve, because that's some of the value that you're bringing to it. And then the last piece of advice that I would give to somebody who's interested in an analytics oriented field is be open to new opportunities as well. It would be great if you could plan everything. And I think those of us who are in analytics and who have kind of, made a career in analytics, we like to be organized. We like to plan things and that kind of stuff. Look, there are so many things in life that we can't plan for. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good to have a plan. It is. But also, don't be a prisoner to that plan, though, either, because there are going to be opportunities that you didn't have any idea about when you were making up your plan, because you don't know everything that's going to go into your plan, especially for young people that are starting off in their careers. When I kind of got into, the SPSS business, I came from the user community. I used to use SPSS every day. I used to work at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And a friend of mine who I went to school with, that I went to graduate school with, he and I used to play poker together, and he had gotten a job at SPSS. And he told me about it. And he said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody if you're interested." And my thought was, not really, but okay, I guess I'll come in for an interview. I came in and, kind of one thing led to another. I started working there. Um, did I ever think then I would, then kind of, become a product manager for the SPSS product line? Again, back when I was kind of making up, my kind of, career plan and that kind of stuff, I didn't even know what that was. I mean, if somebody would have told me, "Hey, do you want to be a product manager one day?" I would have said, "Well, what's that mean?" But again, eventually I through, again, kind of no planning of my own, but I ended up, um, as the product manager for SPSS statistics. Again, was I qualified for it at the time? Was I ready for it at the time? Probably not. But I learned, and I learned, as fast as I could, and I kind of learned on the job, and it was great, I enjoyed it immensely. And it was very, it was very rewarding from multiple angles. Um, so that's the last piece of advice I would give to somebody who's, interested in in an analytics oriented career, be open to new ideas, because, and you can try, and try them. You may fail in some of them. That's okay. Try them though. So that's kind of the last piece of advice I would give.
Wonderful, Kyle. Thank you very much because we are always learning. I think
Hmm.
that the path is really long. Be careful about how you are still attached to a plan. We already know that there are so many changes around. We need to stay focused, but always open to learn.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Cal, I think that those are our questions by now. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. So we'll be in touch and open to the new trends that are coming from the SPSS statistics and
Thank you.
open to know more a little bit about it.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Take
Okay.
care. Bye bye.